Hello and welcome to the Trinity Fit Over 40 podcast with me, Rob Burkhead. Today's podcast is the first in a new series of interviews with our team. Now, we have a team of 15 staff members now working at Trinity, and today's episode is with Laura, who's one of our most experienced coaches. Now, it would be a bit weird for me to interview Laura as effectively her boss, although I'd never use that term. So one of Laura's clients, Abby, actually interviewed her for us. So in today's episode, you're going to learn how Laura got into personal training after working as both an actor and in teaching first, as well as all the jobs she had to do on the side to get by as an actor, which is pretty entertaining, including being a mascot. And she also reveals what it's like working at Trinity, what makes her tick, and what is the most rewarding thing about working with her private coaching clients. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode with Trinity coach Laura.
Hello. I'm here. I imagine Rob's going to do some sort of intro because he usually introduces the podcasts. But just in case, I'm Abby, and Laura was my coach, and hopefully will be again when she's finished being on maternity leave. And I interviewed Rob and Ben a little while ago about why they ended up creating Trinity and what their vision was and how that happened. And I wanted to also interview the coaches because they are very, very special people. They mean an awful lot to those of us in the programme. And I was also fascinated about them and how they came to Trinity and just to know a bit more about them. And we only really get to know our own coach. And I just thought it'd be nice for everybody in the community, everyone who has had contact with Laura, to be able to find out a bit more about Laura, but also anyone else who has a coach, just to kind of get a bit more about the vibe of being a Trinity coach. So that's why we're here.
I love
and
it.
Laura
It's great.
is my first volunteer. So thank you for that. So let's get cracking. So the first one is the blind date question, because that's kind of the form for Trinity. So who are you and where do you come from?
So I'm Laura. I'm one of the senior support coaches at Trinity. I'm also a stress resilience coach too with Trinity. And I am from the Lake District. But I've lived kind of all over, but I'm from the Lake District and I'm currently there now.
Okay, thank you very much. And how long have you been with Trinity?
I've been with Trinity since March last year, so nearly a year and a half.
Okay.
Wow, that's gone fast.
Okay. My first question really is about how did you come across Trinity? Because I know a lot of us, happened across the Facebook ad going, "Is this you?" But obviously you're not a client, you're a coach. So how did you come across them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It was on Indeed. I was just looking for a new challenge. So at that time I was PTing, which I did like. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it, but it just felt a bit flat. I just was looking for something a little more kind of in depth. I knew I wanted to work with women specifically. And as PTs are usually self-employed, and I think I was hopeful to try and find something that would be an employed role. I didn't have any luck finding that. That was like a needle in a haystack. There was nothing like that as a personal trainer. And I was just on Indeed one day and I saw this ad, and it was support coach, help women in menopause get fit and healthy. And I was like, hello, this is a bit of what I've been looking for. And I applied for the job and then did my own research. So I followed the guys on Instagram, Facebook. I was on their website. I was watching videos because I was like, maybe this is a bit of a scam. Like I'm sure that like loads of, anything online, you're like, am I going to be taken for a ride? Because I've done some funny jobs in my life. And I was like, I'd learn from your mistakes, Laura, research the job. And I couldn't find anything negative about it. So I was chuffed to bits when I got an interview. And then I think Rob and Ben said on their podcast, but the interview process was really in depth. It was quite rigorous. which I suppose just shows how much they care and how much they want to make sure that the coaches coming on board are the right fit. So yes, there was an initial very short interview. Didn't think that I'd make it any further, if I'm honest. And then there was a second longer interview, and there was a few like personality questions, and then there was a bit of kind of writing kind of exercises and things like that. And I remember getting the call from Rob, I think the final interview, saying we'd love to offer you the job, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like I was so pleased to have found this unique job that ticked so many boxes, and to have even been offered it. So yeah, that's how I found out about Trinity.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that's really nice. Well, it's just, and also it echoes a lot of my own experience, because I said, when I first saw it, I looked everywhere online to look for, is this a scam? Because it, there's just so much stuff out there. So it's quite kind of good to hear that, it's not just me that's cynical and suspicious.
No, not at all. Absolutely. Because also I didn't want to work for a company I didn't believe in either. If they were a quick fix company, for example, so losing weight really fast in an extreme way. And I asked a lot of questions in my interview about the process and what they believed in and what their ethos was, and I just related to it. I was like, that's exactly, I just want people to be happy and healthy in a sustainable way, as if you've heard me say that a million times. But I didn't want to work for something that I thought was problematic, I suppose is the best word. But it wasn't.
I love that. So they interviewed you and you interviewed them right back, basically.
Of course I did.
Brilliant. Love it. Okay, so I can check what the next question was, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Before we get into the next one, I just want to ask, because you can't go around saying things like, I've done a lot of weird things, without me asking, what have you done? What are these other jobs that you've kind of gone, oh, what have I got myself into now? Or what's that about?
Yes, a lot. Well, I think I have a bit of a different route to many PTs. So I originally trained as an actor. So I worked as an actor for 15 years. I lived in London, and when you're an actor, you have a lot of jobs because you don't really get a lot of acting work. So I did everything. I worked in retail, I worked in coffee shops, I was an awful barista. That's the worst job I'm awful at it. Bless them, they had to put me through 5 training days and I still was rubbish, and I can't do the art, so that wasn't for me. I was like a mascot, like these big mascots who dress up. I worked as Peter Rabbit for a while, which is just, and then I worked in like a Doctor Who convention and dressed up. I don't even know Doctor Who, but it had the weird tentacly things. I'm sure someone knows what that is. Ood, there you go. I was an Ood. And then
I've never met an Ood before. This is just such a treat.
So I did a lot of that. I did a lot of role play work for police and for doctors, which I actually really liked. So that was kind of being awful people, basically. They had to control me, which was so fun. What else? I've done anything I could get my hands on, basically, because all I wanted to be was an actor, and I really wanted to make it work. But it's a really hard, rough, tough industry. And what I found really difficult about it is no matter how hard you worked or how many plays you wrote and put on. So I did that a lot, and I made a theatre company with my friend, and because I got frustrated waiting for other people to give me a role. So we started putting on our own things, and I was like, well, you work hard, you get promoted. Like in my head, that's how it worked. But it doesn't work like that in that industry, and I struggled with that a lot. So over the 15 years, I started to run my own business, which did coaching. So I coached anyone and everyone who wanted to act or dance, and I put on plays and wrote plays, and that was really fun. I really loved that. And then I set up a company called Mini Storytellers, which was storytelling for 2 to 4 year olds. And I ran that for 5 years in London, and it did really well. And I loved it, but I was working every day, 7 days a week, all day. I would never switch off. And that's where my interest in stress comes from a lot. As I said before, I'm a stress resilience coach, and I think it's because I really, really struggled with it in that period of time. And then I kind of started to drift a little bit. I was like, I loved being creative and I loved performing and I loved coaching people, but it just started to feel like a job, and the fun kind of sucked out of it. And the stress was getting too much. I was like, this is not sustainable. I wasn't earning any money. I was just working all the time. And then it got to a point where I just wasn't very well because of the stress that I was under, trying to achieve so much and not really getting anywhere. And during that time, because I've not always been fit and healthy, quote, I wouldn't describe myself necessarily as that, but I've not always been into it. And I started going to the gym and I started strength training with a PT that looked like a Viking. He was awesome. And I just started falling in love with it. And it really, honestly, was the thing that kept me sane in all of that. And so gradually I started to think, I want to do something a bit different. I think I'm at the end of the road with my million jobs that I was doing. And I think probably one of the not lowest moments, comedy moments, was my friend saying, we have the title role in a panto and someone's pulled out. Would you like to do it? And I was like, oh my, yeah, I'd love that. I'd love to do a lead role. What's the role? And it was Mother Goose. So I was a goose. I was in a 7-foot goose costume. I'd had 4 years drama school training. I didn't think I was that bad an actor. But what I had to do was just push eggs in between my legs and onto the stage. And that was for me when I was like, I think I'm out. I think I might need to do something else with my time. I just remember wearing these bright orange tights and these huge flappy feet, and I was just like, I remember just thinking, I think I need a new direction. And lockdown happened, which was actually great because it got me thinking about, what do I want? What do I like? And I think it was easy for me. I love people. I love working with people. I love understanding how people tick. And I really wanted to help. I really wanted to coach. I loved it. And the PT at my gym was like, have you ever thought about personal training? And I was like, yeah. So I trained in it and worked as a personal trainer for a while, which, like I said before, I did like, but it just fell a bit flat for me in terms of just doing like a workout with people. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think I just wanted a little bit, it was something else I wanted to help with. And so that's when Trinity happened, and it all of this madness and all of the things I've done and all of the things I've kind of learned, and I don't regret a single second of it. I do think it's helped to connect with people. So yeah, that's a very brief history. There's so many more stories. My goodness me, but that's a little tidbit.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. That is an image that's going to stay with me for really quite some time. So I was going to ask you, and you obviously can, but can you remember the first time you met Ben and Rob, and what were your first impressions?
Yeah, I do. I do remember it because I hope they don't get annoyed for me saying this, but I remember thinking they were smaller than I thought. That was my first thought. I think because I was expecting these huge, intimidating guys who made this business, and I met them, and they just weren't that. Like, they were just so lovely. Honestly, like they were very soft. But they know their stuff and they really care. That's what I really got from them. But Ben is very competitive, which we do like a fun team thing on a Wednesday. Ben is the most competitive out of the whole team, for sure. Unless it's about CrossFit, and then Rob does come into his own.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I can. So, what's a typical working day like for you?
Ooh. So a typical day will be split between phone calls with clients. So usually 15-minute calls, like catch-up weekly calls, like we used to have. So we'd go through your week, what was going well, what you need support with, and kind of unpick anything there. But it would also be split with email clients as well. So I would get we call them their weekly check-ins. So I'd get their check-in about how the week's gone, and just kind of offer email support and some advice of whatever that might be. And then it kind of depends. Sometimes we'll have like a goal-getting call with clients, which is a slightly longer call at the kind of tail end of their first phase, where we'll go through kind of how goals are getting, how we're getting on with the goals that we've set, what we need to keep doing, and what we might need to change. And then it kind of niggly things like checking people's food trackers who want some extra nutritional support, checking up on people who have been having a specifically tough week. So it kind of varies, but all in all about that. And then we'll have the occasional meeting, and we'll always touch base as a team every week about how we're all getting on, anything that people have flagged up a lot. So we have our coaching call on a Tuesday with Rob and Ben, and usually we'll talk as a coaching team about things that are coming up through all of our clients that maybe need specific help. So, for example, things like going on holiday. What do you do when you go on holiday? Or Christmas is coming up, or a lot of people were struggling with sleep, or for whatever, so we always touch base as well. So yeah, that's it. And it's good because it's every day is different.
Okay.
So it's
Even though you're doing the same things,
yeah,
effectively.
yeah, same things, but every single client is unique. So it's not a copy paste situation. I can't say that the conversation I had with you is the same as the next person I have, because or the same, or an email client, their reality is totally different to somebody else's, and their challenges are different. So it's a lot about unpicking and unlocking that, and working out how that person, or what kind of support that person needs. Do they need a bit of tough love? Do they need some kindness that week? Do they need picking up? Do they need kicking? Go on, you can do this, motivation kind of speech. So it's a lot of kind of fine tuning what that particular person needs.
What do you think are the kind of the transferable skills from coming to it through the route you came? Because obviously you've, like you said, you've had quite a, not necessarily a typical background for someone who's in training and coaching. So I'm guessing that there are sort of valuable things that you've acquired along the way, not accidentally, but you know what I mean, that are sort of are useful in this role that you wouldn't necessarily have kind of expected. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that question. I've never really thought about it. I think that's a good question. I think in terms of when you perform, you have to learn how to work with everybody as a team, and you also have to, when you approach a role, you have to ask what makes that person the way they are. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes, basically. You also have to be very patient and approach the way that you talk to somebody, the tones that you use. Same with email as well. How do you create a strong relationship with someone over an email? That's something that I loved about writing. So I love writing. So it's about how do you kind of create that relationship with that person. Resilience a lot of the time, like they have a hell of a lot of knockbacks, and being thrust into roles or jobs a lot of the time where you just like, here you go, off you go. And you just have to not learn as you go, but you become quite good with people and grounded, because you have to, it's always about the person, it's always about you guys. And that, I think, is what I've loved about coaching. But it's a good question. I've never really thought about it. Sorry, that's probably a very weird, fluffy way of describing it.
No, I just wondered, because I think there must be something in the acting and performing where you've got to learn to read people, and you've got to be able to respond to them. And you've said about choosing the tone to use, and seeing how people respond, and that which is really kind of nuanced. It's a really kind of soft skill, for want of a better term. But I can see how the sort of background that you have would all contribute to your ability to build rapport quickly, and all of those, and be as responsive as you are. So I just thought that was quite interesting, but
It is.
put you on the spot to make you think about
No,
it, because it's kind of my job.
it's a good question.
I also wondered about, though, you talked about the work day, and I have said a typical working day, but I was interested in as well outside of that. So are you somebody, and I realise at the moment your situation might be a little bit different, you're not going to be leaping out of bed and doing a massive workout, but is it a kind of, I get up and I walk the dog before I start work, or is it just I roll out of bed and then I'm on the phone, or are you someone that needs the sort of 2 hours before you start work to sort of center yourself and meditate, or that whole, who are you when not just the working day, but the kind of the routine? What's your whole day like?
Okay, no, I like that. That's good. So I'm not a morning person. I never have been. So I often sleep a bit later, and then I'll get up and I'll get ready and then start work kind of straight away. And then in the middle of the day, I will walk the dog. So I make sure I have a break. And I made a pact with myself one year to go outside every day, no matter what. And I have actually done that. Obviously, having a dog is great because you have to stop and step away from the laptop, because I have been a person who's sat at a laptop all day because I want to get stuff done. But I know it's not productive or good for me or the clients if I'm just solidly there. So I'll go out, I'll walk my dog, Jeff, and we'll do about an hour. I used to occasionally run that, obviously not right now, but I used to do about 3 of the walks were a run, a small run or a longer run. But I'm an evening worker-outerer. I'm one of those. So I am a member of a gym, and they do. It's not quite CrossFit. It's a strength class, and I do that 3 times a week, and it's booked in. So for me, that's quite key, because and I know I'm this kind of person, if I'm not expected to be somewhere or to do something, I won't do it. I'll drift. So it's taken me. I've strength trained for about 10 years, and it's taken me that long to work out what I need is the accountability. So I book on every week, and then I go, and I do that in an evening between 6 and 7, and then I'll come back, make tea, and then I love reading. So we'll read in an evening. I'll chat to Mike, my husband, and then we usually go to bed kind of not really very late, 10. I do meditate. That's been something that's been really helpful, and I journal as well to kind of do before bed. That just really helps bookend the day. So even though I tell, and some of my clients probably listening to this going, oh, but you advised me to do it in the morning, and I'm like, for some people that's the best option, 100%, because an evening is hard. By the end of the day, you're tired, you're hungry, you don't want to do it, and the only way that I make sure that happens is because I book onto something and someone's expecting me to be somewhere. But like all of us coaches, all of us have days where we don't want to do it. We can't be bothered. You just want to eat cake. Like we are all human as well. And it's just about working out your little route and what it is that you need to make sure that you stick to the things you need and are good for you. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally does, because it's the whole kind of Trinity approach, and it's really lovely. I was thinking this, and I said this to Rob and Ben, that they very much sort of live Trinity themselves. It's very much a do as I do, not do as I say kind of deal, even though they're clearly not menopausal women. But the fact that they're working, and Rob will say, that sometimes he doesn't want to work out, and he's been very honest about times when he didn't have the accountability, so things sort of went in the opposite direction for him, and stuff like that. So hearing that you as a coach have had to work out what works for you, just like we do with our coaches, and whether it's that we are morning people or that actually we're evening people, or and pre-booking things makes you turn up and that's why you do it, and so on, and making a pact with yourself to go outside. I mean, this all sounds like the kinds of things that we might talk about on a coaching call to try and to help move forwards to that kind of happy, healthy maintenance, well-being thing. So I think it's like one of the things I love is also when you see coaches delivering training sessions and they're sort of squished into funny little spaces in their own homes. I think I watched a stretching one that you did, and there was Jeff in the background, and you were kind of squished in between a sofa and a table, and I love it because it's really authentic, and it just goes to show. And I think it was Jess said in the podcast that's just been put up, that she liked that as well. It showed that you didn't have to be in a gym or your own kind of home gym place, that you could do it in a corner of your bedroom or a corner of your living room. So I think all of those things that show that this is, again, it's not just Rob and Ben, it's the coaches themselves that are kind of living the journey with us in a different way, but the same principles apply. So I think that's great.
Yeah,
I really like it, and thank you for those little insights. I will think of you curled up in a book with a book in the evenings. That's kind of cute. So what's the favourite part of your job?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot, and I don't, the obvious cliche one is when you see people get to the goal that they want, and but I think my favourite part is where someone reaches a goal they didn't even think that they had. So they maybe are like, I didn't realize how stressed I was and how that was impacting my relationship, and that's now improved. Or one lady I spoke to, she has just become a grandma, and she was talking about holding her grandson above her head and like doing the funny drop game, and she was like, there's no way I would have been strong enough to do that. And I love it when it becomes something that wasn't even on somebody's radar and they realise how much happier they are, or stronger mentally, physically. They have a grip on their stress. I love that bit. That's my favourite bit. Obviously, I love it when people get to the goals that they originally set, or but it's really nice when it becomes much bigger than the scales. That's my favourite thing.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. So, Mother Goose aside, what are you most proud of in your career so far?
Well, obviously, yes.
I mean, clearly that was a high point.
Specifically for Trinity.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What am I most proud of? That's really hard, but I'm gonna say starting and setting up the stress consultations, because that was a bit of a love project in a way. It means a lot to me that as women we can feel more empowered and in control of our stresses. We have enough going on. And I kind of created this process, and I did a course on it, and I fully threw myself into everything about that. And I really do believe that it makes a big impact on our health and well-being. So starting those up, trialing them, some finding what worked, a lot of things didn't work, being okay with the fact that things don't work, listening to feedback and building that up. And I think I just finished my 30th one last month. So that was, I'm going to say that was a bit of a unique one, but it meant a lot to me. So that.
Cool. That's really cool. Okay, so what's the hardest part of what you do?
I think the hardest part of working in the fitness industry in general is battling the kind of beliefs and myths that flow around and are in all of our psyches. Things like you have to be X size to be sexy, or women can't strength train because they'll be hench, or to lose weight you need to do it quickly, or bouncing back, that those kind of phrases, things like that. That's the hardest thing, because it's everywhere. And as much as we all love to say we don't listen to it, of course we do. And it does seep through. It does like get into us. And that's the hardest bit, is unpicking and trying to not get rid of. I don't think you ever do get rid of it, but trying to find a different way of looking at our bodies and what they can do, especially as we move through the different phases of being a woman. So from puberty to having kids, if you have kids, if you don't, doesn't matter. If you go from menopause, which you will, that's going to change your body. And learning how to be, like, to own that, rather than to punish ourselves for being the things that we think we should. That's the hardest thing. And it's breaks my heart to listen to people who are struggling with those. That's the hardest bit.
Okay. What makes you keep showing up? What is it that keeps you getting out of bed and turning up and doing the thing?
I mean, the people, both the team. The team are brilliant. I love all the team, and the clients I get to work with. I'm so lucky. All of my clients are great. and I hope to have a good relationship with all of them. But to turn up because you guys show up, you guys show up and you do your best, and I'm asking you to do X, Y, Z. So I should be there to be your cheerleader, to say, you're doing it. Just keep doing it. So that.
Thank you. So if you had to get across just one thing about the program that you think would help people succeed, and it could be one practice or one aspect or component or one habit of it. If somebody said, what's the key thing if you want to succeed in Trinity, what's the secret, what's the thing, what would you say?
Wow. I would say show up and consistency. So the thing that we say a lot is progress, not perfection. And I would say that because you will never be perfect. You will never do this perfectly. But that's great. That's life. And I think just show up. If 1 week is an absolute car crash and all you do is walk and maybe stretch, and one day have a good breakfast, hey, you tried, you showed up, you did what you could, and then pick yourself up next week and say, I'm going to try and do this, is what I'm going to aim to do. Don't write weeks off just because you've got something went a bit wrong, or you assume you can't do it perfectly. Then quitting before you've even tried, because 2 days can make a difference, 1 day can make a difference. So I think sometimes we can all get into the mindset of, well, if I can't do this perfectly, I'll just wait until this time of my life. But it's never going to happen. So you may as well just show up and do what you can. And honestly, that works. I mean, I've seen it, and I know it works, and all of us coaches know it works. So that would be the thing that I'd say. Just keep showing up and just keep doing what you can when you can.
I think that's really, really good advice. And I think it was on the chat, one of the ladies on the WhatsApp group said, and I think it was to encourage somebody who is maybe struggling a little bit, and she was saying, I just think of the advice from Rob about brushing your teeth, and it could have been Jess on the podcast, but anyway, Rob said, it takes a time to build a habit, but if you don't, for whatever reason, brush your teeth one morning or evening, you don't go, oh, that's it, I'm never going to brush my teeth again. The next time it's time to brush your teeth, you brush your teeth.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of really ties in with what you've just been talking about. It's that thing that sometimes you can't brush your teeth, but as soon as you can, you do. And it's showing up. And yeah, so I think that's really, really helpful. So to finish off, I've got the quick fire round.
Ooh.
So same questions as I asked Ben and Rob, because what makes it interesting is what people's different responses rather than different questions. Sometimes that's the interesting part, and sometimes it's just the same questions but different people answering them. So,
okay.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Right. So, if you could only eat one food or meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh my God. A roast.
A roast what?
Dinner. But veggie.
Yeah, I know.
Veggie roast.
Veggie
roast.
Oh, okay.
With a massive Yorkshire pudding, cauliflower cheese.
Yeah.
Good roast potatoes, crispy roast potatoes. I love sprouts, so I'll take some sprouts as well. Parsnips, carrots, the whole shebang.
The whole shebang. What's your kind of centerpiece for that?
Well, I make quite a good lentil, like nut roast, but it's not a nut roast. It's like a lentil loaf.
Right.
So I'll make that. Or, if I'm feeling very extravagant, a cheese and onion pie.
Steady.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. He doesn't love one of those.
Yeah.
If you could choose one food item that you could eat as much as you want and it would have no negative consequences, Just an unlimited amount of it whenever you like, what would it be?
Oh my God. Toss up between two. Mac and cheese. I love mac and cheese. I'm a massive sucker for crisps and dip. Like, that is my Achilles heel. So if I could just eat like crisps and dip on like a conveyor belt
On repeat.
It'd be great. But then mac and cheese are just like, if that didn't have any consequence, oof. Yeah, so toss up. Maybe a starter of crisp and dip, then the mac and cheese.
Ah, perfect. What? Let's get specific here. What crisps and what dip?
Okay, so probably go like a kettle chip. Maybe the black pepper kettle chip with sour cream and chili.
Okay.
That's beautiful. Or the proper chip barbecue with smoked hummus. You can tell I've done this a lot, can't you? But Achilles heel. That's my thing. That, you know, again, like I tell you, if I have crisps in the house, they're gone. They are gone. So I can't buy them. I can't have them in the house. So
right.
Go.
Okay. So of all the activity that you do normally, what's your favourite move or type of exercise?
Well, it'd be definitely to do with strength, and I love upper body training, so I love a bench press and a pull-up. Bench press and a pull-up. They're my two favourites.
A pull-up. Oh, that's some advanced stuff right there.
I can't do it right now, unfortunately, but why?
Well, no, but some of us can't do it at all and don't expect to ever be able to do it. So shush now. Okay, what's your least favourite? What's the one that if it's in a workout, you're kind of like, oh, really?
I don't really enjoy a lunge. I won't.
No.
I don't enjoy.
I'm with you there.
Yeah, I like a Bulgarian split squat, but specifically,
what's wrong with you?
A jumping lunge.
Ugh.
No.
Ugh. That sounds too hideous to even contemplate.
No, it's not. No, I don't enjoy that.
I'm currently experiencing the joy of death by lunges, as Rob charmingly calls it, and no. Okay, when you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be in space. I wanted to be an astronaut. I was obsessed with space.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Are you still?
It kind of freaks me out now if I think about it. I think I watched Apollo 13 and was like, no, I don't want to do that anymore, Dad.
I've changed my mind. So you're not hanging on Brian Cox's every word and watching all the spacey stuff.
No. I was quite in, like, I loved school and I loved science. So I was like, I want to go to space. And then for some reason I wanted to be a marine biologist, which I don't really think I knew what that was. And then I wanted to be an actor. So who knows what flipped there?
Okay. What do you wish you could do more of?
Hiking. I really would love more time to go up mountains because I live in the Lake District, so I'd love more time to do that.
Okay. What would you like to do less of?
Be on my phone. I'm on my phone so much; it's so silly. Like, not necessarily with work, just silly, scrolling like we all do. Like that needs to go. Maybe I'll put that as a goal for myself, Abby.
Okay. And last one, if you couldn't do this, if you couldn't be the Trinity coach that you are, what would you do instead?
If I was allowed to and they'd let me in the door, I'd like to write for like Pixar and like write children's films. Ooh. I'd love that. Or comedy. I'd love to write like for children's films or comedy, something like that.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you.
It's been absolutely lovely talking to you. And thank you for taking the time, and wish you just the very best of luck with everything, and hope you enjoy all that you've got ahead of you as best you can.
Thank you.
And I'll say thank you and goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and also, Rob always says, so I get to say it, enjoy the rest of your day.
I will. Thank you.